Welcome to the Note to Self podcast. I'm your host, Zoe. I'm a certified professional life coach, serial entrepreneur, verified YouTuber, and published author. On this podcast, you can expect actionable tips, reflections, and inspiration to live your best, most fulfilling life. So, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Note to Self. I'm super excited to bring forth this episode today because this is a big pattern that I recently uprooted within myself. And I've actually seen the reflection from clients experiencing a lot of the same things. So I'm sure that there are some of you out there who perhaps may have this pattern in your awareness already, or maybe it's not quite there. And maybe this episode will activate some new levels of awareness and the ability and the empowerment to release this pattern. So, the pattern that I'm bringing forth today is a transactional relationship with source. And this is something that for the last year, up until about now, I feel like I've released its grasp on me, but definitely during the dark night of the soul and the K2 sub period. That's a term used in Vedic astrology. That's something I've just recently come out of, as well as the Saturn return. So there was just a stacked bout of roller coaster healing, let's call it. So I'm sure that I can speak for all of us out there that when we're going through a roller coaster healing journey chapter, it can feel like we're sort of in a washing machine. And for me, I was constantly just feeling and wishing and just hoping that I could have a break. Like I could have a break and enjoy my life and not have another huge trigger or a huge bout of healing arise. But of course, it's all a part of the journey. And the more awareness that we can bring towards different patterns and different triggers that are presenting themselves, the more we can actively choose to liberate ourselves from these patterns and ultimately feel more free. So, the transactional relationship with source. So, this was really showing up for me because I was facing such a challenging chapter or two or three, it felt like. And I was really like, if I'm speaking into the narrative of it, it's sort of like, why isn't it here yet? Like, I've done XYZ. Why isn't the manifestations? Why isn't the clarity? Why isn't the next level, the next chapter here yet? It just feels like I'm in this washing machine and I've done all of this healing. Where is the fruits of my labor? So that was what I was personally struggling with, was feeling or living in an expectation to receive from source to a point where anger started to arise, as in, why isn't X here yet when I've done Y? And I noticed that this anger and this frustration, it would present itself often, right? Like each time that I would find myself in a new trigger, I would just call out the source and say, make it make sense. None of this is making sense. This has been a long time of a lot of healing, and I'm ready. I'm ready to expand. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to evolve. The truth is, we're always growing. We're all evolving. And that it can also just feel like it can be really hard and it can be really heavy when we are in those chapters. But I just really want to reflect back to you. You're always in a forward momentum, even if it doesn't feel like it. You're always moving forward, even if it feels like you're purging out some deep emotions or you're in a deeper chapter of healing or things haven't come into focus yet or into clarity yet. So like I said, I noticed that this pattern kept arising, and the main emotions behind it were anger and frustration and annoyance and just wishing things were different. And one thing that my kinesiologist reflected back to me was that anger is actually more blocking than depression in these states. And as I looked deeper into that, I realized that yes, anger actually was more blocking towards the manifestations or the next level that I was calling into my life, because anger is all consuming. When I personally feel anger, it feels like it's just the only thing that's coming out of me. It's like a sacred rage, if you will. It's taking over my entire body. It's sometimes my blood feels like it's boiling and I have no idea where this is coming from, what it's about. And I've created a video on my YouTube channel about how to transform anger and rage, how to heal that. it took a while to understand it. But I found that as I just started to acknowledge that anger was present and then looked a bit deeper underneath that anger, I started to uncover the story. And the story for me, the big story that I've been healing in my life this past year, is not feeling supported by source. So naturally, as I found myself doing all of this deep healing work and then continuously facing another trigger, perhaps another occurrence that felt like a setback, perhaps another bout of deep healing, I was naturally looking for a breath of fresh air. I was looking for a manifestation. I was looking for a sign from the universe that I was on my way out. But the truth is, the way out was to address the anger and rage, was to address these deeper emotions and allow them to release so that I could create space for that of which I desired. And to bring it back to the beginning of this episode, this was a pattern, right? This actually was a pattern that I noticed in myself of being angry at source, being angry at the universe, being angry at God, whatever word resonates best with you. Like I found myself being angry and calling forth, make it make sense, please make it make sense. I just feel like I'm spinning my wheels, I'm struggling. And in those times of feeling those narratives so deeply and that anger was arising, I could tell that it was very much blocking me from seeing the beauty in my life, feeling the gratitude that was so accessible to me. But that anger and that rage needed to be transmuted. And the ways that I did that, I go into more depth in the YouTube video, but I just started to, first of all, journal into it, uncover the deeper stories there, and really bring this pattern into light of why am I living an expectation to receive to the point where I'm angry if I don't get what I want, right? Versus when I started to journal into these things, when I started to transmute the energy, I realized that, wow, I am so incredibly grateful for everything that I'm learning about myself through these deeper bouts of healing, through these deeper life lessons. And as soon as I started to um, and as soon as I started to transmute that and turn it into gratitude, I started to see the abundance of my life again. I started to dissolve that lens that felt so jaded and cynical on life. And I started to have a fresh pair of eyes. And as I had that fresh pair of eyes after the deeper suppressed emotions were released, I started to see more and more beauty. And I started to see more and more of my growth and my evolution. And I noticed that when I started to begin to access this gratitude, when the pattern came up again, where I started to feel angry and frustrated, instead of expressing that and blaming source, if you will, I started to look in the mirror and was like, what's going on inside, Zoe? What's going on inside? Okay, it's this story again of not feeling supported, right? And of recognizing there's been a lot of deep healing and I'm ready to receive a new level of support from source. And so, in looking in the mirror and transmuting my own emotions and being able to access gratitude, the new lens started to happen. And in order to nurture that new lens, right? Because it's natural that as we're practicing a new way of being, we might fall into the previous pattern or the previous identity. Instead of saying, make it make sense, God, I started to say, God, show me the way. God, source, universe, show me the way, show me how to see things differently. I am willing now more than ever to see things differently. I'm not willing to hold on to this anger anymore. Allow me to transmute it. Allow me to see the pathway forward. Allow the path to be made clear. I started to then work with source versus being against source and the lessons. I started to co-create with source for my solutions, for my clarity, for my newfound momentum. And in that statement, I'm willing to see things differently. That's a growth mindset. That is a very open, conscious energy that's seeking evolution versus the previous pattern of being angry and not wanting to move or budge until I saw some type of sign or I saw some type of manifestation. So I encourage you that while you're listening to this episode, if any of this resonated, perhaps ask yourself, is there a pattern here? where I'm living an expectation to receive to the point where anger starts to arise? And if so, what's underneath that anger? What might be the story for you? And then just become the curious observer about it. Journal into it, meditate into it. Just start that self inquiry journey and set yourself up to find the gratitude. Open yourself up to seeing things differently. Dig, dig, dig. Don't make it mean anything about you. Just simply acknowledge that you're uprooting a pattern or you're uprooting a way of being that isn't serving you. And that, in fact, the anger that you might be experiencing is blocking all the magic from coming from you. Be willing to see things differently. Be willing to have that growth mindset. Be willing to find the gratitude no matter what. And I promise you, your life will transform. So, I hope that this episode inspired you guys today. I also just wanted to pop in here and let you know that the I also just wanted to pop in here and let you know that the Digital Nomad Academy is presently open for registration until the end of June. And this is 6 months of business mentoring and mindset coaching from me in a program. So a new module drops each week. There's tons of incredible bonus content. There's pre-work already in there so you can begin right away. And this is my biggest program yet. I'm only going to be launching it once a year, and it's incredibly accessible right now. So naturally, as I launch it again, when it already has all of those 27 plus modules, over 6 months worth of beautiful, abundant, inspiring, and powerful business building content, the rate will increase. But if you enter into the program now, you have access to all future editions when I launch again. I've also recently introduced an easy pay payment plan, which is for 12 months. So if this is resonating with you, if you're ready to take your business and your life to the next level, if you're ready to access a new level of freedom and just flip and go for it more than ever before, I would love to have you inside. Sending you so, so much love. Remember, you're never alone in your journey, and I appreciate you, and I'll be talking to you again very soon. Bye. Thank you for listening to Note to Self. If you enjoyed this episode, please help me out by rating and reviewing this show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If my energy is resonating with you and you feel the call to work with me, there are an abundance of ways to do so. I offer one-to-one life coaching programs, mastermind containers, and DIY courses, all of which are available through my website, zoearielpoulsen.com. Until next time, take note of all the abundance that surrounds you as you make the most of this game called life.